theyeshiva.net.
Kuf Beis Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the bottom, Tana Rabbanan. If you remember Daf Kuf, Amud Aleph, Amud Beis, we learned about a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, and the Gemara is now going to return to that argument. The argument was, if you start a meal on Friday, even though Rabbi Yehuda says that on Friday you shouldn't have a meal from approximately 3 o'clock p.m. before Mincha, if sunrise is 6, but before Mincha Ktana you shouldn't have a meal, whatever that time is in the afternoon. But let's say you started earlier, or according to Rabbi Yossi, you can always have a meal Friday, and now Shabbos comes in, what do? So we had a huge machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda says you have to stop. Shabbos came in, you cannot continue eating without Kiddush. You started eating when you were allowed to, that's fine. But now sunset came, you have to stop the meal, and if you want to continue eating, you first have to there has to be Kiddush and benching, and then you'll start a new meal. Rabbi Yossi argued that you could continue eating and bench, and then you'll make Kiddush. And your Kiddush will be after the meal. And your Kiddush will connect to the meal before. In other words, it's an interesting case where a person makes Kiddush after Seder Shabbos, but you don't have to interrupt. And then the Gemara brought the third view of Shmuel, who said Peiris Mapo Makadosh, which is a view in the middle, right? That you interrupt the meal, but not completely. You don't have to bench. You just cover the bread, you make Kiddush, and you continue the meal. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you have to bench. The meal is over. Start a new meal if you want. Rabbi Yossi says you don't have to do anything. You don't have to make Kiddush, you don't have to bench. You could just continue as is. And Shmuel said, Peiris Mapo Makadosh. As the Rashbam said, that Shmuel is really following Rabbi Yossi, but just giving a new chumrah. And the chumrah is you could continue the meal, but just do Kiddush in the middle, which Rabbi Yossi doesn't mind. He just says you don't have to. So the Gemara now brings a brisa connected to this machlokes. Tana Rabbanan. B'nei Chabura shoyim mesubin. You had a chabura, a group, and they were sitting and eating. Mesubin means they were reclining and eating. That's how they used to eat. And it was a Friday. The Gemara doesn't say it clearly, but it's obvious that it was a Friday because it says v'kiddush alei and hayom. And the day became holy, meaning Shabbos came in while they were in the middle of the meal, which means it was a Friday. And let's say Shkia, sunset was 6 o'clock p.m., just for argument's sake. So it's 6 o'clock p.m., and they're in the middle of a meal. Mevi'in loy kois shal yayin, v'omer alav kedushas hayom, v'sheni omer alav birchas hamazon. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, what do? You bring one of the people eating a cup of wine, and he says Kiddush on the cup of wine. Then you bring him a sheni, a second cup, and he benches. This is what Rabbi Yehuda holds. Very interesting. He doesn't say to first bench and then do a new Kiddush and eat a second meal.
Sheni means like
a second cup of wine. A second cup of wine.
Second person?
No. A second cup of wine. Yeah.
Right after Kiddush? Right after Kiddush means the bench?
Yes, the bench after Kiddush, yeah.
Not the munch.
Right, you can't continue the meal. That's Rabbi Yehuda's shitta. The meal of Chayil has to get interrupted, and if you want to have a new meal now, or later, that's fine. You have to have a new meal. You need to the Shabbos. You could do it right now. You could do it later. I mean, not much later because you already made Kiddush. But the bottom line is that you have to interrupt the first meal. It has to come to an end, meaning you have to bench. And then you start Sudas Shabbos, where Rabbi Yossi completely disagrees. He says you just continue your meal. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't just say you say Kiddush in the middle of the meal and then you could continue eating. No, you can't continue the meal. The meal must come to a completion through benching, and then you start a new meal. So the first cup you'll make Kiddush, and the second cup you're going to do Birchas Hamazon. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, this is the Shitta of Rabbi Yehuda. Why does he say you should make Kiddush before Birchas Hamazon? Why not bench and then make Kiddush for the new meal? You're benching for the old meal, for the weekday meal. Why are you doing Kiddush before benching?
This was Shabbos precedence, no?
Yes, Rabbi Yehuda was the one who held you to bench first.
Rabbi Yehuda held you have to bench before you continue the meal. In other words, you can't continue the meal. It has to be a new meal. So the Shabbos has to be new. It cannot continue, cannot attach itself to the Suda of Friday. It's two separate creatures, right? It becomes very practical if Purim is Friday. Purim is Friday. People have a meal. They go sometimes till Shabbos. They want to continue. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you can't.
Says Shabbos Kiddush.
Oh. So the Rashbam says, like you said, since the time of Kiddush came, because it's Shkia, it's Shabbos, you have to first do this thing. You first have to do Kiddush. Because that's the time of Kiddush. You still have to bench. You're going to bench after Kiddush. But you have to first make Kiddush.
By the way, since you already made a Kiddush on Shabbos, so what do you have to say in Birkat HaMazon? You say it as a Shabbos?
No. Birchas HaMazon is for the weekday. Yeah. There's another advantage, Mefarshim say, of making Kiddush before benching. Why? When we do benching on a cup of wine. When you finish benching, you make hagafen and you drink the wine. If you would do benching before Kiddush, you wouldn't be able to drink the cup of wine of benching because it's already Shabbos, and you're not allowed to drink on Shabbos before Kiddush. So that's why you first make Kiddush, and you drink the cup of wine for Kiddush. Then you bench for the meal, and you drink a second cup of wine for the benching. And now you could drink because you already made Kiddush.
You can't combine.
You can't combine it, two separate
Bench, and then
things.
you get Kiddush, and you just
So
drink.
Rabbi Yehuda says you make Kiddush on a cup of wine, drink it, then you bring a second cup, either he himself or somebody else, and benches, and now they could drink the second cup of wine also. But if they would have benched before Kiddush, then what would have happened? You couldn't drink the cup of wine from benching. Why? Because it's already Shabbos, and you're not allowed to drink on Shabbos. When Shkia comes, I can't just take a cup of wine. Even if I'm benching, I'm not going to take a cup of wine. I'm not allowed to drink anymore. Remember, Rabbi Yehuda says everything gets interrupted. So therefore you first make Kiddush, so now you could drink, and then you could drink both cups of wine, the Kiddush wine and the benching wine.
That's a chiyuv, the benching wine?
Ah,
It's a chiyuv, the wine for benching? No.
if there's one person, you don't have to use a cup of wine. If there's three, there's different shittas, but if there's 10, we use a kaishal bracha.
It's actual chiyuv to use.
Use a cup of wine.
Use a cup of wine even for
In
one
the middle of
person
the week?
in the old times, in the times of Chazal, even one person they would.
Yeah. Rabbi Yossi says you don't have to interrupt the meal at all. When Bein Hashmoshes comes, when Shkia comes, you don't have to interrupt it at all. Just continue going even till it gets dark, and even afterwards. His point is, when sunset comes, you don't have to stop, 6 o'clock, stop. You can go till 7. If you want, you can go till 9 too. But you can go even till it's completely dark, meaning you don't have to change anything. Continue the meal. It's Shabbos. The Sudas Chayil went into Shabbos, and it becomes Sudas Shabbos. You have to make Kiddush. You'll make Kiddush after the meal, and that's going to be the Kiddush b'makam Suda. That Kiddush after the meal is going to attach itself to the meal. Even though the Kiddush here is after the Suda, not before the Suda. So the B'yosi Tainis, you don't have to be mafsik anything. Sog the Gemara. Gomru.
Say something with
No.
Shabbos or something.
Oh, the benching, according to the B'yosi, the benching is going to be with Ritzei. According to the B'yosi, the benching is going to be also for Suda Shabbos, because you're doing benching only later, at the end of the Shabbos meal. So you're already going to put in also Ritzei, because it's both for the Suda Schal and for the Suda Shabbos. So mainly you'll have to do a Shabbos dika benching. Or if it's Yom Tif, a Yom Tif dika benching. Yalav Yava. You're right.
To acknowledge it in the middle of the meal, let's say like with Shabbos or something.
No, Rabbi Yossi says no. Kiddush is only at the end. The Kiddush is going to be the acknowledging.
So even eating just.
Yeah. They continue the meal. Rabbi Yehuda says you can't. You have to
You
bench.
also should say Ritzei then, because you did Kiddush Sayyim.
Huh?
Rabbi Yehuda, for sure you should say Ritzei, no? He said that you don't have to say.
It's a Birchas HaMazon completely for Chayil. It's just you should be able to drink the wine. I doubt it.
Even though you make Kiddush, you already make Kiddush
Yeah.
Sayyim.
I doubt it. It's an interesting shaila. You want to know, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you have to make Ritzei in benching. Since the whole Birchas HaMazon is going on the Chayil meals, but you're doing it after Kiddush, you have to say Ritzei.
Because according to Rabbi Yossi is also
I hear.
going on the Chayil meal. He started before. It's really the same thing.
Like Rabbi Yossi, it's just the Shabbos, but Rabbi Yehuda nicht. Yeah.
Oh, Rabbi Yossi is also really, it started before. So why is that any different?
No, according to Rabbi Yossi, we don't make you be mafsik. The Suda Schal could morph into Suda Shabbos. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we make you be mafsik. Zog the Gemara, Gamru Koincides. According to Rabbi Yossi, they finish the meal. Gamru, they finish the meal. They bring him a cup and he makes a berachas hamazon. And the second cup, he does Kiddush. So the first kais of berachas hamazon is the end of the meal. And therefore, Rabbi Yossi says, just like you could continue the meal before Kiddush, you could also bench and drink the cup of wine before Kiddush. That's why he doesn't say you have to do Kiddush before benching. Rabbi Yehuda said you have to do Kiddush before benching, because if you do Kiddush after benching, you won't be able to drink the cup of wine of benching. But Rabbi Yossi holds that what? That you could continue the meal even on Shabbos, even though you didn't make Kiddush. So he says you could bench and drink the cup like you did the meal, and then afterwards they're going to bring you a second cup, and you're going to make Kiddush at the end of the meal. Now, of course, Rabbi Yossi doesn't mind if you make Kiddush earlier. Rabbi Yossi doesn't care if 6 o'clock you say, let's stop the meal and make Kiddush. And that's the shit of Shmuel, who says, Peiris, Mappa, or Mekadesh. Make Kiddush, don't bench, make Kiddush, and continue after Kiddush. Rabbi Yossi doesn't care, but it's a chumrah, it's an extra chumrah. Rabbi Yossi says, you don't have to do that. You could finish the meal and make Kiddush after you finish the meal. But of course, if you cover the bread in the middle of the meal and you make Kiddush and you continue, Havdalah will be good. Rabbi Yossi has no opposition to that. He just says you don't have to, and that was taka the din of Shmuel, who was machmir according to Rabbi Yossi, and upped it one notch and said you should make Kiddush in the middle. Frag the Gemara.
In which case he would not say Ritzeh.
You would still make Ritzeh. According to Rabbi Yossi, when you bench, you're always going to mention the Shabbos in benching, because the benching is for the Suda of Chayil, but also for the Suda of Shabbos. Remember, you're benching at the end of the Shabbos the Gamil, which could go till midnight. He didn't say Kiddush Sayayim yet, but he's benching for a Shabbos the Gamil. It's considered Suda Shabbos. There's a mitzvah to have a Suda on Shabbos. He fulfilled the mitzvah. He doesn't have to have a second Suda Friday night. He doesn't have to have an extra 3 meals. That becomes his Suda Shabbos. And the Kiddush afterwards is the Makom Su'uda of the Suda before Kiddush.
So what the Kiddush then adds? You have a yayin.
No.
You acknowledge the Shabbos, it's early saying. You already did everything. What does it do extra?
Well, you have to make Kiddush on Shabbos.
So, but you already mevorach al yayin. So you use the yayin for saying
No.
You have this aspect. The yayin already have.
No, but the yayin, you need wine to make Kiddush. To use the wine for benching is one yayin. But there's a special mitzvah to make Kiddush on Shabbos with a nusach and a cup of wine.
What's the Kiddush accomplished? Kiddush accomplished like some kind of Havdalah, from hold to Kiddush, from Kiddush to hold. Now he says already Ritzeh, so he has already Kiddush Sayom.
But you're right. But you're saying he already said Kiddush Sayom in benching. You can every Shabbos we say Kiddush Sayom in Ma'ariv. In Ma'ariv we also acknowledge Shabbos. But there's still a din d'Rabbanan that you have to Zoichreu al Hayayin. We have to sanctify and welcome the Shabbos with the brachas that Chazal gave us through a cup of wine. That wasn't accomplished yet. So Rabbi Yossi says you do it afterwards, and that Kiddush is called the Makom Su'uda because it's done in the place of the meal, right after the meal. Zog the Gemara, Amai, why does Rabbi Yossi say you need 2 separate cups? Why don't you say both on 1 cup? Why does Rabbi Yossi say you bring him a kais for benching, and then you bring him a kais for Kiddush? Why do you need 2 separate kaises of wine? Why don't you fill up 1 cup of wine, and on the same cup of wine you could do Sai Kiddush Hayom and Sai Berachas Hamazon? This is a question only according to Rabbi Yossi, not according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, because you have to interrupt the meal and move away the table and bench, and then you're going to eat a separate Suda of Shabbos, so I understand that the Kiddush relates to the second Suda, and the Berachas Hamazon relates to the first Suda, because the Kiddush can't relate to the first Suda, because the first Suda was a Suda of weekday, and the second Suda is a Suda of Shabbos. So therefore you can't make Kiddush on the same cup of wine that you're going to do benching on, because that's shaykh to the Su'uda of Chayil. Rabbi Yossi says don't mix the 2 Su'udas. So don't mix the wine connected to the 2 Su'udas. This is wine of Chayil, and this is wine of Shabbos. I understand that. So this cup of wine I'm using for Kiddush for Shabbos Suda, and this cup of wine I'm using for Berachas Hamazon for the Chol Suda. Just like Rabbi Yossi says you shouldn't mix the 2 meals. So I understand you don't mix the 2 cups of wine. Rabbi Yehuda, don't mix the 2 cups of wine. So you make it on two separate kaises. But Loit Rabbi Yossi, who says not that way, the Birchas Hamazon and the Kiddush is both for the same meal, right? It's for the meal of Shabbos. So why not kill two birds with one stone? Take 1 cup of wine, and on this cup of wine you could bench, you could make Kiddush, and drink the cup of wine, and alles is good. So you tell me because Shabbos and Chol, no, it's both Suda Shabbos. The Kiddush is for Suda Shabbos, which you did before, and Birchas Hamazon is for Suda Shabbos, which you did before. So Mela, you could use 1 cup of wine. So you say, but we don't mix two things. What do you mean we don't mix? The Suda is Suda Shabbos. So what?
So it's like you have to mitzvah, you have to make it.
So that's the shaila. Why? They said you need a cup of wine. You need a cup of wine. You need a cup of wine. So I had a cup of wine. I had a cup of wine for benching. I had a cup of wine for Kiddush, and then I drank it.
Like the concept when Yantiv is Motzaei Shabbos, Yaknaz.
We'll soon see. Yeah. When Yom Tov is Motzaei Shabbos, yeah.
Well, why do we make it wine after benching? What's the reason?
We bench. It's called Kois Bracha. You thank Hashem and for the meal with a cup of wine.
Oh, just
Yeah, you thank him with a cup of wine.
and that goes after though. Has to go if you can.
You bench and you make hagafen and you drink it at the end of wine. So do it together.
It's 2 different reasons then. I mean,
It's 2 reasons, but it's a cup of wine for benching. You need a cup of wine for Kiddush. So he says, Nemrinu l'travayo achad kasa. Say both texts on 1 kos. My Amir Reb Huna Amir Reb Sheshes. Reb Huna said the name of Reb Sheshes. A fascinating idea. Ein oimrim shtei kedushas al kos echad. You don't say 2 brachas on 1 cup of wine. Why not? And he's calling here kedusha. Shtei kedushas is Kiddush. But Birchas Hamazon is also called Kedusha. Even though Birchas Hamazon is not Kiddush. But the concept is, it's a bracha, it's like a holy bracha. You're thanking Hashem. So it's also called a form of Kiddush. So when you have 2 mitzvahs that both have to be done on a cup of wine, like benching and Kiddush, Reb Huna is teaching us in the name of Reb Sheshes, do not mix together both of them with 1 cup of wine. But why not? What's the problem? My time, why not? Amar Reb Nachman Yitzchak, Reb Nachman the son of Yitzchak explained, L'fi shein oisen mitzvahs, chavilos, which means we don't bundle together. Chavila means a package that binds together many things. Like you take many twigs and you make a chavila, you make 1 package. We don't bundle up together many mitzvahs, turning them into a package. What's the problem? The Rashbam says, chavilas, the mechzi alai kamasui. It appears like a heavy burden. In other words, I'm going to use the expression, you basically want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. What do I have to take 2 cups of wine? 1 cup of wine. I'll do this, I'll do this. So it basically looks like it's a burden, and you just want to, because it's a heavy package,
take the easy way out.
you get the easy way out. And you want to, what you're looking for is just to get the chavila off your chest, off your shoulders. So therefore, because it looks like that the mitzvahs are a burden, and he's just trying to hasten and get over it. Let's just get over it because it's too heavy, it's too tedious. So therefore, the Chazal told us, "Ein oisen mitzvahs chavilas." So Rabbi Yossi says, use 2 separate cups of wine. It's kavei bracha la'atzma. In other words, a mitzvah has to be done with a geschmack, with conscientiousness, with concentration, with mindfulness, with dedication. It's not just, let's get it over with, and if we could combine a few mitzvahs as one, and Baruch Shepatrani, Pater an Esek, that's the concept of Ein Oisen Mitzvahs Chavilas. So yes, a cup of wine would work. You need 1, but you do 1 for benching and 1 for Kiddush. It's 2 separate mitzvahs. 1 is thanking Hashem for the food, and 1 is welcoming and sanctifying Shabbos. Frag the Gemara.
When we require a
Separate cup of wine.
break Ragafen?
Yes. After benching, you make Bar Priya Gafen, and by Kiddush, you make Bar Priya Gafen.
So you also couldn't make break Ragafen on the same cup of wine twice.
Oh, you're saying why make Bar Priya Gafen twice?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have to do a Gafen twice.
So you wouldn't.
You don't have to. Unless you made a bracha achrona after, right? If you made a bracha achrona after the wine, you'll have to make a new bracha. But you're right, you won't have to do a second Bar Priya Gafen. Like we learned before by Paris Mapo Makadish. Remember we learned that if it's Friday afternoon and you continue your meal according to Shmuel, and you cover the bread and you make Kiddush, you don't make Hagafen on the Kiddush, because you already made Hagafen in the meal before, so you're not going to make Hagafen on the Kiddush. So you're saying a similar idea. Whenever you made hagafen before, if you didn't divert your mind and the wine was there, or you had in mind the new wine, you don't have to make a new hagafen. Very good tahara. But you still have to make Kiddush, which is Asher Kiddushanah b'mitzvaysav, etc., Mekadosh HaShabbos. Frag the Gemara, Veloy? You just threw this big yisoid. We never combine mitzvahs together and take the shortcut. Really? It's not the case. Vatanya, we have a clear brayse that contradicts us. Hanichnas lebeisa b'Motzaei Shabbos. Somebody enters his home on Motzaei Shabbos. The system is mevarech al hayayin. He makes a bracha on wine, when meaning hagafa. Val hamoyer, on the fire, b'rim meriyesh. Val apsamim, on the incense. V'achakach oimer havdalah ala kois. And then he says havdalah on the cup of wine. Hamavdil ben kodesh l'choil, b'nei l'chershach ben Yisrael amim. But in addition to havdalah, you have to make a bracha on the fire. You have to make a bracha on the psamim. And the reason is, fire you make a bracha Motzaei Shabbos because fire was created Motzaei Shabbos. Psamim you make a bracha Motzaei Shabbos because after the neshama Yisera, the extra neshama of Shabbos leaves, there's a certain emptiness and a certain void and a certain anguish, and that's why we smell the incense. So really, you don't have to make the psamim and the b'rim meriyesh together with Havdalah. It's a separate bracha you can make Motzaei Shabbos. But since we're anyway already making Havdalah on a cup of wine, so the minig is that we already bring in the psamim and b'rim meriyesh because you're already making brachas, so you don't do it separately. So he says you make yayin, moyer, psamim. Yayin means hagafen. This is Motzaei Shabbos. You don't make Kiddush. Motzaei Shabbos. Motzaei Shabbos. You make hagafen, b'rim meriyesh, psamim, and then you say Havdalah, right? What if he only has one cup of wine? So if he makes Havdalah now when he drinks it, he's going to have a meal, what we call Malava Malka. He's going to have a meal and he won't be able to have yayin for benching. He only has one cup of wine. And if he drinks this cup of wine, he's not going to have leftover for benching. So what do? Manichai la'achar hamazon. You leave the Havdalah till after the meal, or meshalshalon kulam la'acharav. And then you bring together all of the brachas after benching. That's what you. Meshalshalon comes from the word shalshelas, which is like a kate, a chain, right? In other words, you connect everything like a chain. You connect the brachas of b'rim meriyesh, psamim, yayin, and Havdalah, all with birchas hamazon. Now here's an interesting thing, because usually we don't eat before Havdalah. You're not allowed to eat before Havdalah. But Tosfos explains here, in this case, since if you make Havdalah, you won't have a kais for birchas hamazon, so they allowed you to eat before Havdalah. And then together with benching, you'll have one cup of wine, and with that cup of wine, you'll bench, and you'll do the Havdalah. You'll make hagafen, you'll make Havdalah, you'll make psamim, meriyesh, and Havdalah. What do we see here clearly? You take one cup of wine, and you use it for Havdalah, which is one mitzvah, and birchas hamazon, which is another mitzvah, and both need a cup of wine.
Normally you don't drink the wine after the Shalosh Shudas.
Huh?
You don't drink it.
Could have been three.
Right?
Shalosh Shudas, Havdalah, and...
No, but after Shalosh Shudas, the Kaishal bracha, you don't drink.
No, so you wait, you make
Same,
Havdalah.
you don't have to, you don't use it. What do you mean he's combining the wine?
No, we're not talking about Shalosh Shudas. We're talking about Shalosh
What's the
Shudas.
Shabbos?
After Shabbos. After
You have
Shabbos.
another Suda?
Yeah. The night Suda. Yeah, Malav
So
Malka.
he's saying you can bundle three instead of bundling two.
So you have Shalosh Shudas kais, and you have
Shalosh
Malav Malka kais, and you have another kais for Havdalah.
We'll soon learn about Shalosh Shudas kais. We'll see later.
You might not drink it, but you say the bracha for it, definitely. So it's two different things. Drinking is one thing, but you definitely make the a la carte for birchas hamazon and Havdalah.
Yeah, we'll soon see Shalosh Shudas. Here the Bryce is telling us that you don't have to make Havdalah right away and then go to your meal. You could delay the Havdalah till after the meal.
He's asking how you're allowed to eat.
You know, Malav Malka having before.
So I answered. So
Are you allowed to eat?
Tosfos asks the question, and Tosfos answers. Yeah. Yeah, you could look Manichel Achar Hamazon. Take a look Manichel Achar Hamazon. Hikshir of Nisim Eich Yochel Koydem Havdalah. Amrina Lekaman Asel Adam Sheitim Kulum Klum Koydem Sheyavdal. Right. Va'Meimer Nami Mastava Kedama Lekaman was also screaming about it. V'Tiritz the Hachamayri. So Tosfos ultimately answers at the end of Tosfos Yeshloimar. The vaday bechinam ein lechel kodem Havdalah. V'kshein le'alakos echad mutar lechel kodem Havdalah. They lasas alakos birchas hamazon. Since he has only one cup of wine, they let him eat. The question is, we see clearly from this brayso that you're using one cup of wine for two mitzvahs, and for the Gemara ein loy shayni. When you don't have enough wine for two cups, it's different, and we can understand why. It doesn't mean you're being stingy with mitzvahs. and you're trying to get rid of it. You don't have wine. So since you don't have wine, you want to do the mitzvah right. You want to do Havdalah with wine. You want to do Birchas Hamazon with wine. So therefore, we let you combine it. But we're talking about a situation where you're sitting at a meal and there's plenty of wine. So to use the same cup for benching and the same cup for Kiddush, Rabbi Yossi said, don't do that. Frag the Gemara, that's not true. Take Yom Tiv that comes out after Shabbos, meaning the first night of Yom Tiv is Motzaei Shabbos. The Islay, a person probably has wine for 2 cups, enough wine for 2 cups of wine. Why? Because it's Motzaei Shabbos, you're going into Yom Tiv. It's a time of Simcha. You probably prepared plenty of food and wine for the Simcha of Yom Tiv. So b'meila you probably have the Islay. V'amar Rav, nonetheless, Rav said that the brachas that we make Motzaei Yom Tiv is Yaknaha. Yaknaha is an acronym, Yayin, Kiddush, Neir, and Havdalah. Yayin means you make a brachas hagefen, savrim aran bar pri hagefen. Then you make Kiddush, because it's the Kiddush of Yom Tiv. Shabachabana mikalam v'ramanu mikaloshen, v'atitin lono ma'adim l'simchas, yoim, let's say Chagasukas or whatever Yom Tiv it is, Chagashvuas or Chagamatzas. Then, because it's Motzaei Shabbos, you're going to do Neir, which is B'rei Meria Eish. There's candles on the table because you lit candles. And then you have Havdalah, which is basically the Hamavdil that you make. Baruch Atah Hashem Hamavdil bein Kodesh LeKodesh, which is Havdalah. And then you're going to drink the cup. So you have 2 cups of wine, and you're using the same cup of wine for the mitzvah of Kiddush for Yom Tiv, and the mitzvah for Havdalah because Shabbos ended. So clearly, you're taking 2 separate mitzvahs, combining them, making them chavilos, and even when you have 2 cups of wine, why don't we say here, ooh, it looks like it's a burden, he's just trying to get rid of it, what do I have to do? Kiddush and then Havdalah, let me do Kiddush and Havdalah together, and Baruch Shabbatran. And for the Gemara, Amri, they answered, Midiloi Amar Zman. Did you realize Rav didn't put in a Zayin? He didn't put in Shechiyanu. But the first night of Yom Tov, we make Shechiyanu. Why didn't he put in Zayin? We have to make Shechiyanu. When Yom Tov comes, you make Shechiyanu by Kiddush. Why didn't he put in a Zayin? He said, Yaknaha. Miklal, the Bishvi Shal Pesach Askina. Brilliant. Avada, he wasn't talking about the first night of Yom Tov. He was talking about particularly the 7th night of Pesach. Shvi Shal Pesach, you do not make a Shechiyanu. Why don't you make a Shechiyanu? Because Shvi Shal Pesach is not a new Yom Tov. It's a continuation from the first days of Yom Tiv. And once you made a Shechiyanu on Yom Tiv, you don't make a second Shechiyanu. Right? Just like when we light Chanukah candles. The first night you make a Shechiyanu. The second night you're not making a Shechiyanu. Because it's a continuation. Shechiyanu is always the first time it happens. The first time, the new season brings a Simcha. So it's the first night of Yom Tiv. But he doesn't say Zman. That means it was already Shvi Shal Pesach. It can't be Chalamoid, because Chalamoid you don't make Kiddush. So this is talking about, obviously, the night of Shvi Shal Pesach, when there's no Shechiyanu. Ooh, we understand. The kol mai the havale achile. You've been already eating. You've been eating already for 6 days. So whatever you have, you ate up, Some guests showed up, the kids were hungry. You ate up everything, you drank up. Velesle. You don't have enough wine for 2 cups. You're asking me from this shit of Rav that you see mitzvahs, you can make mitzvahs chavilas. It's not true. Because Rav particularly was speaking about not the first night of Yom Tov, the 7th night of Yom Tov. The 7th night of Yom Tov, it makes sense that the wine is gone. There's very little wine. There's scarce wine. You have only enough for 1 cup. So Mela, we say combine Kiddush and Havdalah. But according to this, if it would be the first night of Yom Tov, Rav would never say Yaknaha. He would say a cup for Kiddush and a cup for Havdalah, 2 separate things. Frag the Gemara, really? V'ha Yom Tov Rishon de Islay. What about Yom Tov Rishon, the first night of Yom Tov? You certainly have wine because you prepared. If you don't have wine tonight, when do you have wine? V'amar Abaye, and Abaye taught us that the order of the blessings is Yak Zanha. Yayin, which is Hagafen. Kiddush, which is Asher Bacha Banu Mikala Mekadesh Yisrael V'Azmana. Zayin, which is Shechiyanu, the first night of Yom Tov. Nei, which is B'rei Meria Eish, and Havdalah. Rava disagrees, and he says Yaknahas. Yayin, Kiddush, Neir, Havdalah, Zman. And the Gemara on Daf Kuf Gimel, the next page, is going to discuss what's the logic of the debate between Abaye and Rava, why Abaye puts Shechiyanu right after Kiddush, and Rava puts Shechiyanu after Havdalah at the end. That we're going to discuss in a moment. But clearly, they both talk about Shechiyanu. If it's Shechiyanu, it's the first night of Yom Tov, not the 7th night of Yom Tov. If it's the first night of Yom Tov, you have enough wine for 2 cups. Nonetheless, both Abaye and Rava said you could combine both brachas, both mitzvahs, Kiddush and Havdalah, with 1 cup of wine. Tosfos says, why doesn't the Gemara say that they're talking about Shmini Atzeres? Shmini Atzeres, you make Shechiyanu, because it's a regel b'fnei atzmai. You make Shechiyanu. So you could say Abaye and Rava, we're talking about not the first night Yom Tov, but Shmini Atzeres. It's already 7 days of Sukkos, with Simchas Beis HaSheva, with all the meals, Lebedik, and Aleph HaBrengenishin, and the way they did in the times of the Amoraim, and the Tanoim certainly. Yeah, and then you would have an answer. Tosfos says, why doesn't the Gemara say that it was Shmini Atzeres? Shmini Atzeres will explain why there's Shechiyanu. Shvi Shal Pesach, you don't make Shechiyanu because it's a continuation of the first days of Pesach. Right? Unless you didn't make Shechiyanu the first days of Pesach, then you have to make Shmini Atzeres. Shvi Shal Pesach. But Shmini Atzeres is considered a new Yom Tov, Regel B'fnei Atzmai. The Gemara says in Sukkah there's 6 dinim in which Shmini Atzeres is different than the other days. It has a separate definition. It's called the 8th day, but it's still independent in many ways. One of the independent qualities of Shmini Atzeres is that you have to make Shechiyanu. And yet, you already celebrated for 7 days. So we could say you didn't have enough wine. And that's why they said to combine Kiddush and Havdalah. That's the question of Tosfos. So Tosfos answers, the reason is because he says the derech was that for Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, they used to prepare wine.
We can ask another question because
Sachsidische Entfer, huh? Sachsidische Entfer. For Shmini Atzeres, you have to have wine.
So we can ask another question. For Birchas Hamuz and Oiv, when Zukter Sha'ailoi, then as the floor Sha'ailoi, then Zukter make it both. Here, as Zukter Stam Alucha, for Huzal Trachten, as the Alucha geht drauf, no when Hartnish.
Well, you could your same question you're asking, you should ask on Rav. Rav just said Yom Tov Shechol Liyus Achar Shabbos Yakna. So we have a stira. No, so we have a big stira between Rabbi Yossi's Psak and Rav. We're not going to try to make a machlokes and say that Rav says, oisim mitzvahs chavelas. We don't like to do that.
That's the question.
Right, so we're going to say Rav was talking about a specific Yom Tov Shechol Liyus Achar Shabbos. He was speaking about a specific Yom Tov Shechol Liyus Achar Shabbos. Abaye and Rava also said, what was their lashon? Yom Tov Rishon. So Tosfos says Yom Tov Rishon is the first day, but maybe it's Shmini Atzeres, which is the first day. So his tain is that since it's a regel b'fnei atzmai, so they prepared wine for it as well.
You didn't use it the day before.
That you didn't use it. You prepared. In other words, a Shiner Rabbah, you prepared special wine for the last day or the last days of Yom Tov. Last days of Yom Tov. Yeah. So he says regilim lahachin harbe. They used to prepare a lot. Huh? So Oibazai, it's not Shmini Atzeres. Because Shmini Atzeres, even if it is, there was a lot of wine. And still they say you could combine Kiddush and Havdalah. So l'chayra ein oisem mitzvahs chavilas. So the Gemara answers a new answer. Ella Havdalah v'Kiddush chada milsehi. Birchas hamazon v'Kiddush trei milinino. Havdalah and Kiddush are considered one thing, one mitzias. And therefore you could say them both on 1 cup. So when I make Kiddush, Motzaei Shabbos, which is also Yom Tov, whether it's the first day, whether it's Shmini Atzeres, whether there is a Shechiyanu, no Shechiyanu, irrelevant. I could put the two together even though I have enough wine. But Birchas Hamazon and Kiddush are 2 separate things. What's the svara here? The bracha of Havdalah that we make on Motzaei Shabbos, which is the night of Yom Tov, is connected to Kiddush. Because how do we say the Havdalah? Hamavdil bein Kodesh leKodesh. In other words, we're making Havdalah between the Kedushas Shabbos and the Kedushas Yom Tov. So therefore, it's considered Chada Milsehi. The Rashbam says, Travayu mishum Kedushas Yamim Toivim Ninu. Kiddush and Havdalah is both for the Kedusha of Yom Tov. The Pashtas you say, no, Havdalah is goodbye to Shabbos, and Kiddush is welcome to Yom Tov. So the Gemara is mechadish that really it's Chadam Milsa. They're both connected to Kedushas Yom Tov. Uba Havdalah atzmahu maske Kedushas Yom Tov. In the Havdalah itself, you mentioned the Kedushas of Yom Tov. Not only Shabbos is gone, Hamavdil bein Kodesh leKodesh. So the Havdalah is not only about the day that left, The Havdalah is also about the day that's coming. Havdalah is not just, bye-bye, you're gone. Havdalah is a separation between the day that left and the day that came. So Mela Havdalah is connected to Kiddush. Because Kiddush is for Yom Tov, Havdalah is also for Yom Tov. It's a gewaldige word.
Welcoming in the Yom Tov as
You
well.
know, even every Havdalah, Motzaei Shabbos is not just about Shabbos, it's about Sunday. In a way, it's also welcoming Sunday. It's creating a boundary, saying goodbye to Shabbos, and welcoming Sunday. Sunday has a different avodah than Shabbos. Yeah, it's Chayil, it's not Kiddush. There's the avodah Hashem of Kiddush, the avodah Hashem of Chayil. Havdalah is not just, bye-bye, I hate to see you, and now we have nothing. It's a way of welcoming the new day too. So the Rashbam, so the Kiddush and Havdalah is Chada Monsey. What do you mean it's Chada Monsey? This is the previous day, this is the new day. Havdalah is also the new day. I'm separating the old day to welcome the new day. So it's a form of Kiddush. And we see it in the Havdalah itself. That's what he adds. The Havdalah itself, HaMavdil ben Kodesh LeKodesh. Usually you say Kodesh L'Chel, now it's Kodesh L'Kodesh. But mainly you could use the same cost. Because Sof Kol Sof, it's one Nekuda. What's the Nekuda? The Nekuda is welcoming Yom Tov. We're welcoming Yom Tov. One way you welcome it is through Havdalah, and one way you welcome it is through Kiddush. So Havdalah every week is not just saying goodbye to Shabbos, it's also welcoming the new week. You're welcoming the new week through Havdalah. Because without Havdalah, you can't welcome the new week, because it's a different genre, it's a different identity. And you're welcoming Shabbos through Havdalah. So mainly you make it's not Chavilas, it's one Nekuda. It's an Inyan of Kiddush. Mashenkin Berchas HaMazon, when you talk about Berchas HaMazon and Havdalah, Berchas HaMazon and Kiddush, I mean, it's two separate things, obviously. Berchas HaMazon, Rabbi Yossi says, you're benching, thanking Hashem for the meal. That's a separate thing. You make Berchas HaMazon a whole week. You're thanking Hashem for the food. It's on Shabbos, so you're going to say Ritzei. If it's Yom Tov, you're going to say Yalav Yavai, because you mentioned Shabbos, you mentioned Kedusha Shabbos, but that's not the gather of Berchas HaMazon. The definition of Berchas HaMazon is thanking Hashem for food. The definition of Kiddush is welcoming Shabbos. So it's two separate creatures, two separate inyanim. But Mela, it's not Chada Mils, it's Trei Milim, but Mela you have to use two separate cups of wine. That's why Rabbi Yossi said it. So it's completely not a stira. Kiddush and Havdalah works together. That's what Rav said. That's what Abaye said. That's what Rav said. Even if you have plenty of wine, it's not an issue of not having wine. But Mashenkin, Havdalah, Mashenkin, Birchas HaMazon, and Kiddush, you need 2 cups of wine.
Is the Chada Milsa is in the Indian of Havdalah, which is separation, or Indian of welcoming? So it's like a boy. There are 2 Inyanim here. One is welcoming, coming day, and another one is separating from the previous day.
Yeah, but I guess the separation, that's what he's saying, is a form of welcoming. What about the Bryce that we learned about, that you could sometimes use the same cup for Havdalah and Birchas HaMazon? Right? L'chayre, how could you use? Over there you're going to say, because you didn't have enough. You didn't have enough wine. That's why they said you could do Havdalah with Birchas HaMazon. It says clearly you didn't have enough. So that answers that question. But in terms of Motzaei Shabbos Yom Tov, Kiddush and Havdalah works together. Birchas HaMazon and Havdalah, you're still going to have to answer. Why? Because he didn't have more than 1 cup, and that answers it. I just want you to take a look. We'll learn Tosfos. Let's learn Tosfos because he quotes it. Take a look in Tosfos. Rav Amma Yakna. You see the second to the last Tosfos. Umar she'ein maskep samim. I know why he doesn't say Zman. You said he doesn't say Zman because he was maybe talking about Shri Shal Pesach. But why doesn't he say Psamim? Pirush Rashbam, the Tam Psamim mishum ibud neshama yeseda. The reason for Psamim is because you lost your neshama yeseda. When Motzaei Shabbos comes, the extra neshama, so to speak, goes out, and therefore you smell the Psamim to revive the person. Ubiyom Tov, nami ikin neshama yeseda. The Rashbam says, since on Yom Tov you also have a neshama yeseda, so when Motzaei Shabbos falls out on Yom Tov, you have to make boire moriya eish, but not psamim. So that's why he says Yayin Kiddush Neir Havdalah, no psamim. Which taka we don't do psamim Motzaei Shabbos when it's Yom Tov. We only do boire moriya. So the Rashbam says because the neshama yeseda didn't leave because it's Yom Tov. Boire moriya you have to make because Motzaei Shabbos, but you don't have to make psamim. The kasha for Ektais was the imkain for Motzaei Yom Tov Amayloi Tekinu psamim. Then every Motzaei Yom Tov we should make a bracha on psamim because we're losing the neshama yeseda. Lekach nira, therefore Tosfos says, fascinating, the b'Yom Tov leka neshama yeseda. By Yom Tov there's no neshama yeseda, and therefore you don't have to make psamim Motzaei Yom Tov. V'hacha ein masker psamim, so why Motzaei Shabbos that's Yom Tov you don't say psamim? Mishum the simchas Yom Tov v'achilu sh'siyim moel kamei psamim. Since you're going into Yom Tov, so the simcha of Yom Tov and the eating and drinking of Yom Tov is effective as Pesachim to console you for the neshama yisera that was lost on Shabbos. V'yesh taimim lo nechayim. There are other reasons that are incorrect. V'zeh hatam nachan v'ikr. This is the correct and primary reason why we don't make B'er Minim Pesachim Motzaei Shabbos. Because even though the neshama leaves, the Rashbam says we don't because the neshama doesn't leave. But Taisa says it doesn't make sense because then Motzaei Yom Tov you should make it because the neshama does leave then. So the Charaya, there's no neshama yisera, so you're not worried when Shabbos, when Yom Tov ends, you don't have to make a bracha. I'm Motzaei Shabbos, you should make a B'er Minim Pesachim. So Taisa says mechadish that what Pesachim accomplishes every Motzaei Shabbos, Simchas Yom Tov and the food and the drinks of Yom Tov accomplish on Motzaei Shabbos that falls out on Yom Tov.
Lava Malka is not enough for that.
Well, Lava Malka is not enough because it's you need Simchas Yom Tov and Achilur Siyah compensate for the neshama yisera.
So we don't need to eat extra on Yom Tov. It's no neshama to feed.
Right. Depends how you define neshama yisera. Yeah. You have to understand what's as far as Amachlaikas of Rashbam and Tosfos. Gufa, we learned before. Thank you so much. Yom Tov shechaliyas acher Shabbos. If Yom Tov falls out after Shabbos, you see Kuf Beis Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. Gufa. Yom Tov shechaliyas acher Shabbos. Yom Tov falls out after Shabbos, meaning Motzaei Shabbos is also Yom Tov. So now we have to make Kiddush. We have to make Kiddush because it's Yom Tov, but we also have to make Havdalah because it's Motzaei Shabbos. And there's the bracha of Boirim Ma'iri Ha'esh because it's Motzaei Shabbos, we make a bracha on the fire. And there's, of course, the bracha Boirim Pri HaGafen. So Psamim, interestingly, we don't make Motzaei Shabbos that falls out on Yom Tov. But we have to do Kiddush. Kiddush always includes 2 blessings, which is wine, Hagafen, right? How do we usually make Kiddush? We say, Savri Maran Baruch Atah Hashem Lekeinu Melech Haolam B'rei Pri HaGafen, and then we say the bracha of Kiddush itself. Baruch Atah Hashem Lekeinu Melech Haolam Asher Kedashanu B'mitzvayso V'Ratza Banu V'Shabbos Kadshay Ba'avo V'Ratzon Hinchilanu, etc. Kivanu V'Charta Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadosh HaShabbos. So it's 2 brachas. One is called Birchas Hayayin, bracha on wine, Hagafen, because you're going to drink wine. That you would make a whole week whenever you drink wine. But since it's Shabbos, you're not just drinking wine. There's a special mitzvah of Kiddush. You're sanctifying Shabbos, you're welcoming Shabbos, you're acknowledging Shabbos on the wine. And then you drink the wine. So there's 2 blessings every Friday night, granted. What happens now when Friday night, when the same is true Yom Tov night? Every night of Yom Tov, what do? We say B'rei Pri HaGafen, and then Kiddush, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikolam V'Remanu Mikolashem Kedashanu B'mitzvayso, right? V'titen Lanu Hashem Elokeinu Ba'ava Moyadim L'Simcha Chagim B'Zmanim L'Sostin, say Es Yom Chag HaSukkos Hazeh Zman Simchaseinu Kivanu V'Charta Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadosh Yisrael V'Hazmanim. And then sometimes we'll say Shechiyanu, the first night of Yom Tov, the second night of Yom Tov, we'll say Shechiyanu as well. Here the problem is that you have 2 things coming together. You have Motzaei Shabbos together with Yom Tov. So that's right. Yom Tov shechaliyas acher Shabbos. What happens? Rav says the order is Yaknaha. Yaknaha would mean Yayin, Kiddush, Neir, Havdalah. Ushmuel Amar Yanhak. Yayin, Neir, Havdalah, Kiddush. So Rav says the order of the blessings is Yaknaha. Yayin. What's Yayin? The first blessing is Hagafen. B'rei Pri HaGafen, right? The next would be Kiddush, which is Baruch Atah Hashem Asher Bachar Elokeinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikolam V'rei Memanu Mikolashem V'Kedashanu B'mitzvayso V'titen Lanu, the whole Kiddush till Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadosh Yisrael V'Hazmanim. Then you're going to do Neir, which is B'rei Ma'iri Ha'esh, and then you're going to do Hey, which is Havdalah. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam HaMavdil, right? Ben Kodesh L'chol, Ben Ar L'choshech, Ben Yisrael La'amim, Ben Yom HaShvi L'Sheshes Yemaisa, Ben Kedushas Yom Tov, Ben Kedushas Shabbos, L'Kedushas Yom Tov, Hivdalta V'Kidashtas Amchi Yisrael, Ben Kedushasecha, Baruch Atah Hashem, HaMavdil, Ben Kodesh L'Kodesh. That's how you do it. Yaknaha, Yayin, Kiddush, Neir, Havdalah. You see the logic in Rav? The logic in Rav basically you first do the Yom Tov, and then you get to deal with the Shabbos. First you do the Kiddush for Yom Tov, and then you go back to do the Havdalah for Shabbos. You do B'rei Ma'iri Ha'esh, and you do Havdalah like you do every Motzaei Shabbos. You don't do Psamim, but you do Beit Meirish and you do Havdalah like every Shabbos. That's Rav's shit. Shmuel's shit is you do Yayin, you start with Hagafen, then you go to Beit Meirish, then you do Havdalah, and then you do Kiddush. Completely different order. What do we see here? What are the two patterns? You see immediately. For Shmuel, Havdalah precedes Kiddush. You first say goodbye to Shabbos, and then you welcome Yom Tov. For Rav, Kiddush precedes Havdalah. First you welcome Yom Tov, and then you say goodbye to Shabbos. Very interesting machlekes. According to Rav, Kiddush has to come before Havdalah. And remember, Havdalah is two. Havdalah is Havdalah, and this Beit Meirish is also part of Havdalah, because that's what we do Motzaei Shabbos after Shabbos was over. Why would Rav want to do Kiddush before Havdalah? L'chayr Shabbos came first. Why don't you first say goodbye to Shabbos and then welcome? So the answer is, Rav feels, number one, Kiddush is more important than Havdalah, because Havdalah is saying goodbye to what was. Kiddush is welcoming that which is. So it has prominence over Havdalah. Havdalah is basically saying goodbye. Kiddush is welcoming a new day. That's number one. Number two, if you do Havdalah first, it may seem that Shabbos is a burden. And that's why you want to right away do Havdalah as fast as possible. Let's get it over with and move on. So that's why Rav holds you first start with Kiddush. First of all, it's more chashuv, it's more prominent. And B, because you want to delay the Havdalah. And then you'll do Havdalah. So therefore, Rav's system is very clear. First you do Hagafen, then you do Kiddush. Now you're done. Now you go to the next step, which is Beit Meirish and Havdalah. Very good. What happened to Shechiyanu? So as the Gemara said before, you have to say, this includes also the night of Shvi Shel Pesach. The night of Shvi Shel Pesach, right? Or Achron Shel Pesach, you wouldn't make a Shechiyanu, because it's the last days of Pesach and you made the first days. Shmuel holds the opposite of Rav. Shmuel holds you make first Havdalah and then Kiddush. The Gemara is soon going to explain why Shmuel argues that you have to make Havdalah first, but that's what Shmuel holds.
If the Shabbos went into Yom Tov, would they hold different?
Huh?
If you stretch your Shabbos into Yom Tov at night, would they hold different because the Kiddush now was on the previous meal?
No. Same thing, yeah. Yeah, this is what the Kiddush looks like Motzaei Shabbos when it's also Yom Tov. What it looks like. Shmuel holds the Havdalah comes first. So therefore Shmuel says, what do? First you do Havdalah. So what's Havdalah? Hagafen, Beit Meirish, Havdalah, and then Kiddush. Yayin, Neir, Havdalah, Kiddush. So one says Yaknaha, and one says Yanhak. Rav says Yayin, Kiddush, Neir, Havdalah. Shmuel says Yayin, Neir, Havdalah, Kiddush. Seems very glad, two different streams of how you got to do it. Kiddush comes first, or Havdalah comes first. Sag the Gemara weiter, Rabbi. Rabbi daf kuf gimel amar aleph, Rabbi says, no, Yehanak. What's Yehanak? Yayin, first Hagafen, then Havdalah, then Neir, then Kiddush. Which is interesting. We see that Rabbi holds like Shmuel. What does he hold? Havdalah comes before Kiddush, that's clear. In principle, he holds like Shmuel comes before Kiddush, but he changes the regular order of Havdalah. And he does first Havdalah, then Beit Meirish. We do first Beit Meirish and then Havdalah, which is what Shmuel did. Shmuel said you do Yayin, then you do Neir, Havdalah, which is the regular order, then you do Kiddush. Rabbi also says you do Havdalah first. So first he does Yayin, Havdalah, but then Neir. Why wouldn't he put the Beit Meirish before Havdalah like we do at every Motzaei Shabbos? He needs to put something between Havdalah and Kiddush. You see, Shmuel goes from Havdalah straight into Kiddush. By Shmuel, you do Hamavdil ben Kodesh leKodesh, and right away, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Asher b'chabanu mikalam. Rabbi doesn't like that. Rabbi wants a hefsek between Havdalah and Kiddush. So you start with Hagafen. You're not going to go Beit Meirish. You're going to do Havdalah, then you'll do Beit Meirish, and then you'll do Kiddush. Why does he want this? Because he feels there's a stira between the two brachas. The two brachas are contradicting each other. In Birchas Havdalah, what are we saying? That Kedushas Yom Tov is inferior to Kedushas Shabbos. Hamavdil ben Kodesh leKodesh. It's like a Havdalah. You need a Havdalah. It's like we're finished with the heavy Kedusha, and now we're not going into Chayil. We're going into a lower Kedusha. So Havdalah brings out the inferiority of Yom Tov legabe Shabbos. What does Kiddush do? Kiddush brings out the gewaltige Kedusha of Yom Tov. So mail the two brachas, he says, pasnisht. There has to be a separation. It's two different worlds. Very interesting svara, Rabbi. And that's why he says, make a hefsek. What's the hefsek you make? Make a hefsek of Berde Meriyahish. So mainly you do Hagafen. Why do you do Hagafen? That he's not going to push off later. Because Hagafen is, we always do first because it's Tadir. Tadir Sheine, Tadir Kaidim is the most permanent bracha because whenever you drink wine, you make Hagafen. Right? Berde Meriyahish, you do only once a week. Yayin you could do every day, theoretically. You could do 10 times a day. I mean, whenever you drink wine. So Yayin we always do first, which Rav and Shmuel also hold. You do Yayin first. We always do a Yayin first. When you have to make a bracha, you want to push away a bracha, you want to push it off later, which one are you going to take? You're going to take Berde Meriyahish, and you'll insert it between Havdalah and Kiddush just to make a hefsek. That's the shitta of Rabbi, the way the Rashbam explains all these svaras. So Yayin, Havdalah, Neir and Kiddush, Rabba. Next, Levi Amar, you thought it was over. Levi Amar Kniya. Kiddush, Neir, Yayin, Havdalah. What do we see from Levi? Levi holds like Rav. He wants Kiddush before Havdalah, right? But instead of putting Yayin and Kiddush and Neir Havdalah, which would have looked like Rav, Yakna, he does Kiddush first. And he puts Neir and Yain before Havdalah. Why? He wants a separation between Kiddush and Havdalah to be even more. So he'll start off with Kiddush, then he's going to do Neir, then he's going to do Yain, and then he's going to do Havdalah. Kiddush, Neir, Yain, Havdalah. What do we see from here? Let's get a little more specific with Levi. Levi holds like Rav, Kiddush has to come before Havdalah. But instead of doing Hagafen in the beginning, do Hagafen in the beginning. Yayin, Kiddush, Neir, Havdalah would be very good, right? He says, no, don't do Yayin in the beginning. Yayin, in fact, is almost the last thing. It's right before Havdalah. Why is it? The answer is because he wants that you should see that the Hagafen relates not only to the Kiddush, but also relates to the Havdalah, to the Birchas Havdalah. If you would make Hagafen in the beginning, there would be a tremendous gulf between the Hagafen and the Havdalah, right? It would be Yayin, Kiddush, Neir, Havdalah, like Rav. So Hagafen is in the beginning, and Havdalah is at the end. And therefore it would look like that the Hagafen is only going on the Kiddush, not on the Havdalah. But really the Hagafen is also going on the Havdalah. Even if you'll do the wine right after Kiddush, for example, you'll do Kiddush, and then Hagafen, right? Not Kniya, but Kina, right? So L'chayra would be good. You would still say that the Yayin, Hagafen, goes on the Kiddush and not on the Havdalah. Because every single Motzaei Shabbos, there's no Kiddush. So you could do Hagafen, Berde Meriyahish, and then Havdalah, because it's obvious that Hagafen is going on the Havdalah, there's no other thing. But here, that there's also a Kiddush. So he says, even doing the Yayin right after the Kiddush would still indicate perhaps that the Yayin is only going on the Kiddush and not on the Havdalah. Therefore, he says, put the Hagafen as close as possible to the Havdalah. Because the Havdalah was made on wine, the Chacham Mesaken to make Birchas Havdalah on wine, that's the Takana. In fact, you even make it closer to Havdalah than to Kiddush. It's like almost you're discriminating against Kiddush. Not only will you not do Yayin, Kiddush, Neir, Havdalah, you won't even do Kiddush, Yayin, Neir, Havdalah. Because even then the Yayin looks like it's still going to the Kiddush. You do Kiddush, Neir, and then Yayin, Havdalah. Then you're going to think the Yayin is only for Havdalah and not for Kiddush. Yeah. So the Rashbam explains, because actually Kiddush, the Chazal weren't Mesaken the Dafka on wine. You could do it on bread too. A person could make Kiddush on Challah too. You could be Yotze Kiddush, you make Hamoitzi, right? If a person doesn't have wine, you make Kiddush on Pas. Havdalah is Dafka on wine. So in Mele, Levi holds that you Dafka do the Yayin right before Havdalah. So you do Kiddush, Neir, Yayin, Havdalah. But in principle, again, Kiddush comes first, like Rav.
You want to Dafka do it all together? Why not just make Havdalah? Take a break, and then an hour later make Kiddush v'Shaf Hayantif.
What?
I'm just saying. What's the Indian of having it all together?
You want to bring.
But if somebody wanted to take a break,
you don't want to delay bringing in Yom Tov because it's like a bizoyan to Yom Tov. You want to bring it in.
Havdalah. I want to cook my meal, place.
Well, you don't make two brachas when not necessary, and you don't have to use two. I'm saying you don't have to make two agafens and 2 cups of wine. It's not necessary. Even though we said earlier, even though ein nois and mitzvahs chavilas, you usually don't bundle up mitzvahs together, but here we said Kiddush and Havdalah is really one theme, it's one principle. It's both celebrating the Kedusha of holy days. Right, the Gemara asked earlier, ein nois and mitzvahs chavilas. The Gemara asked us, you don't bundle together mitzvahs because it just looks like you want to get rid of them. You don't kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But the Gemara says it's not 2 birds, because Kiddush and Havdalah is really the same theme. It celebrates holy days. Kiddush, you're welcoming Yom Tov. Havdalah, you're saying goodbye to Shabbos. And even in the Kiddush, even in the Havdalah, you're mentioning the Kedushas Yom Tov. Hamavdil ben Kodesh leKodesh. And the concept of Havdalah is not only saying goodbye, but it's also preparing for the new day. So Kiddush and Havdalah are very much interconnected. Havdalah is not just saying goodbye to the day that left. Havdalah is also welcoming the new day. Havdalah is not just a din in Shabbos, it's also a din in Chayil. So therefore it's Chad and Milsa. The Gemara says it's Chad and Milsa. So you're not going to tell a person make 2 separate hagafins and use 2 separate cups of wine. You could use 1 cup of wine and one Beit Pri Hagafen. The question is just what's the most appropriate order. So we had Rav said Yaknaha, Shmuel said Yanhak, Rabbi said Yehanak, and Levi said Kniya. We're not done yet. V'Rabbanan Amri, and Rabbanan say Kino. They hold also like Rav, that what Kiddush comes first, but they do Kiddush, Yayin, Neir, Havdalah. What's the svara? They hold Kiddush comes before Havdalah. They also don't want the Yayin should be in the beginning, because if it's in the beginning, it's going to look like it's only for Kiddush and not for Havdalah. So that's why they put the Yayin after Kiddush, and they make it closer to Havdalah. But unlike Levi, who puts the Hagafen right before Havdalah, they put it in the regular system of Havdalah. What's the regular system of Havdalah? Hagafen, B'rei Eish, and Hamavdal. So that's what you do here. You do Kiddush, and then you do Yayin, Hagafen, and then, in other words, you go back to the regular system of Havdalah. Okay? And another svara, why the Rabbanan would say this, why they put the wine after Kiddush and not before Kiddush like Rav, would be because they want to separate Kiddush and Havdalah as much as possible. Since the 2 are contradictory, they're mutually exclusive, so they want to put not just 1 hefsek in between, but 2 hefsekes in between. In other words, really they would do Kiddush before, they would do Kiddush, Hagafen before Kiddush, just like Rav. But they want between Kiddush and Havdalah to make the greatest gulf. So what's the greatest gulf? Do Kiddush, do Yayin, do Ner. Levi is worried that the Yayin should relate to Havdalah, so he puts the Yayin right before Havdalah. The Rabbanan, according to this explanation, are not worried about that. They wouldn't mind putting the Yayin first, but they want a big gulf, so they put the Yayin right after Kiddush. So it's Kina, Kiddush, Yayin, Ner, Havdalah.
Nobody says Ner at the end. Like Levi, we should, if it goes on Kiddush and Havdalah together, he should have Ner at the end.
Well, we never do Ner at the end. We always do Havdalah. Every Motzaei Shabbos we do Ner before Havdalah. Right, so we keep to that.
In this case, the wine has to go for Kiddush and it has to go for the Havdalah, especially according to Levi. So wouldn't it be...
So Taka Levi does Ner before. He does Ner before. He does Kiddush, Ner, Yayin, because he wants... You should see that the Yayin is coming for Havdalah. Even though every Motzaei Shabbos, Levi agrees that the Yayin comes before Ner. But every Motzaei Shabbos, there's no room for error because there's only Havdalah. But now there's room for error. So therefore he takes the Yayin and he delays and he pushes it off as far as possible. Even though it's Tadir, it's the most permanent bracha, it's still you don't do it first. Mar b'dei de Rabbana Amar. Mar, the son of Rabbana, said, Nikiya. Nikiya, what's Nikiya? Ner, Kiddush, Yayin, Havdalah. Here again, in principle, he holds like Rav. Remember, all these shittas, don't get confused. There's 2 streams, Rav and Shmuel. Either Kiddush before Havdalah or Havdalah after Kiddush. I mean, either Kiddush before Havdalah or Havdalah before Kiddush. There's just variations in those 2 streams. How you do Kiddush before Havdalah, how you do Havdalah before Kiddush. So when we do Mar B'dei de Rabbana, right away see Kiddush comes before Havdalah. He holds like Rav. He also holds like Levi, that the wine got to be right before the Havdalah, right? Nikiya, the wine is right before the Havdalah. So if that's the case, the wine is right before the Havdalah. So according to Mar, the son of Rabbana, this Motzaei Shabbos, we're not doing the bracha on the fire, on the Ner, in its regular place. Usually we do it between Yayin and Havdalah, but now we're not because we're doing the Yayin right before the Havdalah. So he says, since right now we cannot put the neir after the yayin like we always do. Usually you do hagafen and then psamim and then ha'esh and then hamavdal. Why? Why does hagafen come first? The answer is tadir v'she'enoi tadir koidim. It's the most permanent regular bracha. It comes first. But we can't do that anyway because he holds like Levi that what the yayin has to go right before Havdalah. So therefore the neir is anyway going out of its regular space. So then he says, once you're moving around the furniture, better to do the neir the first thing even before Kiddush. Why? Because it's the first thing you're enjoying. The first thing you're enjoying, the neir is already burning. It's Motzaei Shabbos, and the neir is burning. So the first thing you're having hana from, when you get up to make Kiddush, the neir is there. You're already enjoying the light. Especially then, remember, there was no electricity. The candle burning was the only source of light. So you're already right away having hana. So therefore, make a bracha right away. Every Motzaei Shabbos, we do B'rei Me'esh before Havdalah. Why? Because you're enjoying the candle right away. But every Motzaei Shabbos, you first do Hagafen because it's Tadir V'She'enoi Tadir Koidim. But here you're anyway delaying the Hagafen to before Havdalah, like Levi said. So he says, if so, take the Neir and put it in the beginning. So it becomes Nikiya. B'rei Me'esh, Kiddush, Yayin, and Havdalah. Marta Amar Mishmei Rabbi Yeshua. Marta said, in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, how do you have it? Nihak. Nihak. So Nihak would be Neir, and then Yayin, and then Havdalah, and then Kiddush. Tosfos here is Goyres, a different Gersa, and in the manuscripts of Gemara, the Gersa is Nehik, which is Neir, Havdalah, Yayin, Kiddush, and it seems also like the Gersa of the Rashbam because he completely ignores this Nihak. So apparently Nihak was a mistake, at least according to most, and the right Gersa was Nehik, which is Neir, Havdalah, Yayin, Kiddush. This is Mart in the name of Rabbi Shul. What's the svara here? We right away see he holds Havdalah comes before Kiddush, like Shmuel, right? However, where does he put Yayin? Instead of putting Yayin, Neir, Havdalah, Kiddush, where does he put Yayin? He puts it between Havdalah and Kiddush. Why? Because he wants that the Hagafen should be relatable to both. So he puts it right in between Havdalah and Kiddush because both were instituted on wine. Why doesn't he need to put the B'rei Me'orei Ha'esh near the Birchas Hayayin that he doesn't care about? Because you don't have to do B'rei Me'orei on wine. Even if you don't have wine, you could still make a bracha on B'rei Me'orei. B'rei Me'orei has nothing to do with the wine. So therefore, the Neir, he doesn't need near the Hagafen. But he wants Kiddush and Havdalah to be near Hagafen, because Havdalah is supposed to make on wine. Kiddush is supposed to make on wine. B'rei Me'orei you don't have to make with wine. We happen to do everything with the wine, some in B'rei Me'orei, but even if you don't have wine, you make B'rei Me'orei separate. So therefore, he says, you do right away the Neir. Then you'll do Havdalah. Then you'll do Yayin, then you'll do Kiddush. So the Yayin connects both. That's the shit of Rabbi Yeshua. And the Gemara concurs and says, another story which testifies to this last opinion, Shalach le'avua de Shmuel Rabbi. The father of Shmuel sent a message to Rabbi Yehuda Anas, Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, let our Rebbe teach us, Seder Havdalah Sa'ech. What's the right order of Havdalah? When? Motzaei Shabbos, that's also Yom Tov. Shalach le, Rabbi sent back a message to the father of Shmuel. Kach amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yossi. Sha'amar mishum aviv, sha'amar mishum Rabbi Shmuel ben Chananya. Let me tell you what Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yossi, said. And Rabbi Shmuel said this in the name of his father, Rabbi Yossi. And Rabbi Yossi said it in the name of who? Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. So this is going back many generations, because Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi is the editor of the Mishnah. The father of Shmuel is sending a message to Rabbi Yehuda, and he wants to know what's going on there. What do we do? So Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi is going back to Rabbi Shimon Chananya. You have to realize is a Levi who's still one of the vocalists in the Beis HaMikdash. One of the musicians in the Beis HaMikdash is Rabbi Shimon Chananya, second Beis HaMikdash. And he says to him, Nehik. The Seder is Nehik, which is Neir, Havdalah, Yayin, and Kiddush. Again, Havdalah comes before Kiddush. The difference here is not like Shmuel himself And now remember, this message was given to the father of Shmuel, but Shmuel himself argued. Shmuel held you do Yayin, Neir, Havdalah, Kiddush, like every Motzaei Shabbos. Kiddush at the end. Here we say, no, you do what? Neir, Havdalah, and then Yayin, and then Kiddush. Amar Reb Chanin explained this shitta.
So we still don't do it like that.
We'll soon see what we do. We'll soon see the Gemara is going to finish what we do. Amar Reb Chanin is said, Mashal Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Let me give you a metaphor, a parable, to explain Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. What's Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya's Kiddush here? That Havdalah comes before Kiddush. Lemelech sheyoytze. A king, a monarch, leaves the city. Va'aparchus nichnas. And a ruler, a governor, comes into the city. What do you do first? We are now the citizens of this particular city. We have two priorities. The king is leaving. We want to escort him. The ruler is coming in. We want to welcome him. What do you do first? Melavenes hamelech. The first thing is you escort the king. And then you go out to welcome the Iparchus. How do they translate Iparchus? The duke. First you say goodbye to the king. You escort him out. By the way, that's why the meal Motzaei Shabbos is called Melava Malka. Why Melava Malka? You're escorting the melech, you're escorting the queen. You're saying goodbye to the king. It's like, you don't just let the king leave. Shabbos is leaving. You make a whole meal to say goodbye. You go together with the melech, together with the malka. That's Motzaei Shabbos. But now Yom Tif, you're bringing in the duke. The duke is not like the king because the holiness of Yom Tif is not as intense as the holiness of Shabbos. So therefore, first you say goodbye to the melech, and then you welcome the duke. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya says, first you make Havdalah, then you make Kiddush. It's Yom Tif now? You're right. But first we have to escort the king. That's Havdalah. Hamavdal ben Kodesh l'Kodesh. And then you're going to welcome the Melech. Now it's interesting. This is what the father of Shmuel heard from Rabbi. Shmuel, his son, maintained the same shitta, but he just changed the order. He said it's like every Motzaei Shabbos. Yayin, Neir, Havdalah, Kiddush. Where Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya himself made it a little different. Basically, Neir, Havdalah, Yayin, Kiddush. Zog the Gemara, wow, we have all these opinions. How many opinions did we have? We had the opinion of Rav, which is what? Yaknaha. We had the opinion of Shmuel, which is what? Yanhak, that's opinion number 2. We had the opinion of Rabbi, who's Yahanak, number 3. We had the opinion of Levi, number 4, which is Kniya. We have the opinion of the rabbis, which is Kina, right? So that's what? That's number 5. Then we have Mar, number 6, Nikia. And then we have Mart in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, which is Nehik. So that's 3, 4, 5, 7 opinions. 7 opinions what you do Motzaei Shabbos, Yom Tif. 7 different opinions. The Gemara, my Havdalah. What's the Gemara? What are we supposed to do here? Do 7 times, 7 Jews, 7 opinions. What do we do?
It's interesting. The one that matches is Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya.
Right.
Only matches to the one.
To Rabbi Yeshua. Yes, exactly. If not, there would be 8. If you're Goyres Nihak, you would have 8. That's why I said that Tosfos is Goyres Nihik. And also would work because it says Marta Amar Mishmei Rabbi Yeshua, right? And the next opinion is also Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. So that's why it's very nice. It could be.
Who's Nihik?
Nihik is Marta in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, and later it becomes Rabbi Shmuel in the name of Rabbi Yossi, in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, quoted by Rabbi, sending a message to Avu to Shmuel.
Seems like that one would be so strong because it came from the...
Exactly.
Tosfos and Rashbam have to bring it out. What?
No, they're just guided that Marta said the same thing. Marta, in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, said the same thing.
But if they hadn't said that, then they
then the Rashbam would have explained Nihak, because the Rashbam explains the Svara. Everything I was telling you, the Svara of each person was from the Rashbam. But Nihak he ignores. So obviously he didn't have it in the text, because if not, he would have explained it. Says the Gemara, my Havdalah, what's the conclusion? Abaya Amar, Abaya says, Yak Zanha, which is basically Yaknaha, with a shechiyanu in the middle. So that's like Rav, Yayin, Kiddush, right? Neir, Havdalah, which is Mamish Rav. Rav said first Kiddush, then Havdalah, but in the middle, after Kiddush, put a shechiyanu. So according to Rav, what would it look like? Savri Marana, Bargat Hashem, Beri Priya Gofen. Then you'll make Kiddush. Asher b'chabana mekalah mekadosh Yisrael v'azmanim. Then you'll make shechiyanu. Then you'll make boider murder eish, and then you'll make havdalah and you'll drink the wine. Rava Amar yaknahaz. Yayin Kiddush Neir Havdalah Zman. Again, following the principle of Rav, Kiddush before Havdalah, but instead of putting Shechiyanu in middle, you put Shechiyanu all the way at the end. So Abaye and Rava both maintain the view of Rav. Interestingly, it's against the father of Shmuel, against Rebbe, against Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, against all these Tanoim. They hold that Kiddush comes before Havdalah, and therefore, if there's no Shechiyanu, like Shvi Shal Pesach, everybody holds Yaknaha, no question. Where is the argument? Abaye and Rava are not really arguing when there's no Shechiyanu. Their argument is only when there is a Shechiyanu. For example, the first night of Pesach, or Shavuos, or Sukkot, where do you put the Shechiyanu? So Abaye says, where do you put the Shechiyanu? You put it right after Kiddush. Why? Because when we say Shechiyanu v'kimonu v'giyonu l'zman hazeh, what is it on? Which zman hazeh? Yom Tov. You just made Kiddush for Yom Tov. So now make a Shechiyanu on Yom Tov. We understand what Abaye is saying. That's what we do every Yom Tov. Forget about Motzaei Shabbos. How do you do every Yom? You make Kiddush, and then you make Shechiyanu after that. Havdalah doesn't need Shechiyanu. Havdalah is for Shabbos. You don't make Shechiyanu after Havdalah. Every Motzaei Shabbos you make Shechiyanu. You say Havdalah. So therefore, Abaye says, why are you putting the Shechiyanu at the end? Shechiyanu belongs after Kiddush. So therefore, do Yayin, Kiddush, Zman, and then go over to Havdalah. Rava holds, no. Rava says that you do the Shechiyanu at the end. Why? You're right that Shechiyanu has to do with Kiddush. But every regular Kiddush, where do you do Shechiyanu? At the end. So here you also do it at the end. Just like every Kiddush, you do Shechiyanu at the end. So here you also do it at the end. At the end of all the brachas, you make Shechiyanu. That's what Rava says.
Even more, because Havdalah is for the future and the past.
Oh.
If that's the case, then you should change it.
You're adding, because since Havdalah is also for the future, so Mela, the Shechiyanu is connected to Havdalah. And there's also another very powerful Nekuda that the Rashbam says. The bracha of Shechiyanu doesn't have to do with the cup of wine. When do women make Shechiyanu on Yom Tov? By the candle lighting. Let's say I don't have a cup of wine or I don't make Kiddush. Right? Yom Tov comes, yeah? I'm without, a person is in a situation they don't have anything, yeah? They could be walking in the marketplace and make a Shechiyanu. Shechiyanu you're making on Yom Tov. It happens to be that we do Shechiyanu together with Kiddush. But Rav is arguing Shechiyanu essentially doesn't have to do anything with the cup of wine. So Mela, you first finish everything that's connected to the cup of wine, and then you do Shechiyanu at the end. So you do it after Hagafen, after Kiddush, after Neir, after Havdalah, and the Gemara finishes up the whole sugya, V'hilchasa Kirava. The halacha is like Rava, following the principle of Rav that Kiddush comes before Havdalah, and following the principle of Rava that Shechiyanu comes all the way at the end. And that's what we do. We do Yayin, Kiddush, Neir, Havdalah, Zman, Yaknahas. We do Hagafen, we'll do Kiddush. Again, why does Kiddush come before Havdalah? For two reasons. Number one, because he holds that the prominent thing is welcoming Shabbos, not saying goodbye to welcoming Yom Tov, not saying goodbye to Shabbos, despite the mashal of Rabbi, that he brought from Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. In other words, the mitzvahs hayom, the avodah now is to welcome what is, not to say goodbye to what was. Interesting lesson in life. That's the main chshivas. Number two, you don't want to do Havdalah first. It shouldn't look like you want to get rid of Shabbos as fast as possible. And therefore, Kiddush comes first. And we do it in the regular order. Hagafen first, Kiddush first. Then we go over to Havdalah, Neir, Havdalah. There's no psamim when you're coming into Yom Tov. The reason there's no psamim, the Rashbam holds because there's an Neshama Yisera even on Yom Tov. So therefore, you don't have to smell because the Neshama Yisera is not leaving. Tosfos argued, why? Because as we learned last time, Tosfos says, if so, we should make psamim on Motzaei Yom Tov. Tosfos argues the Neshama Yisera does leave Motzaei Shabbos, but because of Simchas Yom Tov and all the food and drinks, we learned today in Likud Torah Shmini what it means to eat on Yom Tov, so that weakens the anxiety of the Neshama Yisera leaving. Al kol panim, there's no psamim, so you do Yayin, Kiddush, Neir, Havdalah Zman, Hilchas Kirava. The halacha is like Rava.
Going against the Tana.
Yeah, how do they allow to do that?
You want to know how Rav could go against the Tana? Huh? The Tana, Rebbe said that Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Chananya all said that Havdalah comes before Kiddush, all the way back to the Tzman of the Beis HaMikdash, and Rav argues that it's all wrong. You want to know how Rav can argue with the Tanoim? We do have a klal in Shas, Rav, Tana, Upolig. Rav is considered the intermediary between the generations of the Tanoim and the generation of Amoraim. Because Rav was a Talmud of Rabbi, who was the end of the Tanoim. So Rav is considered on the fence between Tanoim and Amoraim. So the Gemara says Rav, Tana, Upolig.
It's his Rabbi.
So that's not a Chiddush. I mean, the Talmudim argued with the Rebbes constantly. So that's the halacha like Rav. Zog the Gemara, Amaisa, Reb Huna bar Yehuda ikla lebei Rava. Reb Huna, the son of Yehuda, came to the house of Rava. When was this? This was a regular Motzaei Shabbos, not Yom Tov, it's not a regular Motzaei Shabbos. He comes to the house of Rava. Aisu lekamayim moyer psamim. They bring for Rava, they bring him fire, moyer, and they bring him psamim, incense. Baruch Rava apsamim bereishav Adar amoyer. Like we do, Rava makes a bracha boyer mini besamim, and then he makes a bracha boyer me'oirei ha'esh, right? What do? We do hagafen, right? By Havdalah, hagafen, psamim, boyer me'oirei ha'esh, and then hamav. That's exactly what he did. Amalei, after he finishes Havdalah, Reb Huna, who came to visit him, Reb Huna says, V'abein be'shamai, u'bein be'silel moyer bereishav Adar psamim. Both Beis Shammai and both Beis Hillel, even though they argue, they all agree you first make boyer me'oirei ha'esh and then psamim. Where do you see this? Mahi. What was Rabbi Huna referring to? The Tanan, we have a Mishnah, Maseches Brachas, Daf Nun Aleph. Beis Shammai says, the order of the blessings is Neir, U'mazayin, Psamim, V'Havdalah. Beis Hillel Oimrim, Neir, U'Psamim, Mazayin, V'Havdalah. The Mishnah Brachas is talking about a person who was eating on Shabbos afternoon. The meal continued till Motzaei Shabbos. Now you have two priorities. You have to bench, and you also have to make Havdalah. This person only has enough wine for one cup. So what does he have to do? He has to do all the brachas on one kais of wine. What's the right order of the brachas? So Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argue. What do they argue? Beis Shammai says first boirei me'oirei ha'esh, then birchas hamazon, then psamim, then Havdalah. Beis Hillel omrim, no, Neir should come first, but then psamim, then birchas hamazon, and then Havdalah. But what do we see clearly? The question is Mazon. When is Mazon? Is Mazon second or Mazon is third? But everybody says Neir is first. Ani Rava Basrei. So Rava responded after him. Va'aman, he tells Reb Huna wrong. Zu divrei Reb Meir. You're quoting the text of Reb Meir in the Mishnah. Avo Reb Yehuda, the text of Reb Yehuda was Reb Yehuda taught us Lo nechleku Beis Shammai Beis Hillel al Mazon shu betchila val Havdalah shu b'soif. There was no argument between them about Motzaei, that it's in the beginning and Havdalah is at the end. Everybody agrees, you pick up your cup, and first thing you bench. That's no question. Why? Because that's what you just finished. You finished Shalosh Shudas, you bench. Everyone says first Motzaei and then Havdalah. That's not a question. The question is, what happens in the middle? Al manechel kol amar v'al apsamim. Beis Shammai emrim moyer v'achkach psamim, Beis Hillel emrim psamim v'achkach moyer, v'amar Rabbi Yochanan nagu ha'amke Beis Hillel v'alibet Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yochanan said the nation followed Beis Hillel according to the version of Rabbi Yehuda, means first psamim and then boirei me'oirei ha'esh. So don't tell me that I'm following my own shitta, not according to Beis Shammai, not according to Beis Hillel. You're quoting the Meir. I'm quoting Rabbi Yehuda. Everyone holds Birchas Hamazon comes first. Why? Because when you finish your meal, that's the first obligation. Ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. The first mitzvah that you're obligated in, you should do first. I ate, I have to bench, right? Even if I finished my meal later by night, but when I already ate on Shabbos, I was already mechuyev Birchas Hamazon. So the obligation for Birchas Hamazon started before the obligation for Havdalah. So therefore, Birchas Hamazon is always first. Havdalah is always at the end, like we always do. The question is, what comes first? Neir psamim. Zog the Gemara, Rabbi Yaakov bar Abba ikla lebei Rava. Another story. Rabbi Yaakov, the son of Abba, comes to the house of Rava. When is this? This is on Shabbos, as we'll soon see. So the first story is Rabbi Huna came to the house of Rava, Rabbi Huna bar Yehuda, and he watched a regular Havdalah, which he was unhappy with, and Rava clarified his position. Next story is Rabbi Yaakov, the son of Abba, comes to the house of Rava on Shabbos. As we will see, Rabbi Yaakov had a meal with Rava on Shabbos, and he was also there Motzaei Shabbos, and he was there by Havdalah. When Rabbi Yaakov was in the house of Rava, there's going to be three questions that come up on Rava's behavior, and the Gemara is going to bring the whole story of Rabbi Yaakov in the house of Rava. Chazia, Rabbi Yaakov saw, fascinating, the Vorich Beire Pri Hagafen Akasa Kama. Rava makes a Beire Pri Hagafen on a regular cup of wine. It's a regular cup of wine, he makes Beire Pri Hagafen. No, the beginning, he makes a Beire Pri Hagafen on wine. The first kais.
Shabbos, Yontif.
This part of the story, it happened, the Rashbam says it happened on Shabbos, right? It happened on Shabbos, but it's not negeya to Shabbos. The same issue would be also Yemai Sachayil. The Rashbam says that it happened on Shabbos, but it's not negeya Shabbos. It says Iklu Beis Sharava.
Shabbos Havo.
Yeah, the Rashbam says it was on Shabbos. Yeah. Baruch Beire Pri Hagafen Akasa Kama. He made a Beire Pri Hagafen on the first kais. Tosfos says on the words Baruch Hakase Kama Shal Kiddush. It was Kiddush. He basically made Kiddush, and he made Beire Pri Hagafen. He made Beire Pri Hagafen. Rashi says, if you look in Rashi on the top column on the right, Akase Kama Shamaschil Lishtois. When he started to drink, ala mazon shebetchila, when he started to drink, yeah? It could be, the Archadash writes, it could be Rashi holds it was by Sudash Lishis. It was the third meal. So there's no Kiddush, right? So in Mela, there was just a cup of wine for Shalosh Shudas, and Rava made Beire Pri Hagafen on the cup of wine. Tosfos says it was one of the meals of Shabbos when you make Kiddush. Rashi says it was just stam drinking. So it could be it was the third meal, there's no Kiddush, so he was just drinking a cup of wine, and he made Hagafen. Why does Rashi hold it was Sudash Lishis? Because we'll see later that he was there till Havdalah. So therefore Rashi assumes he wasn't there from Shabbos morning or from Friday night. It was rather Sudash Lishis. Could be that's the svara of Rashi. I'll call upon him, but you'll see it's not so negeya here. He makes Hagafen on a cup of wine. Great. Hadar Baruch Hakasa de Birchasa. Then he benches. Kasa de Birchasa means the cup of benching. And he makes another Hagafen. V'ishti, and he drinks it. You get it? He sits down for a meal. Let's say it's Shalosh Shudas. He drinks a cup of wine, Hagafen. He benches on a cup of wine. He makes another Hagafen after benching, and he drinks it. Amalei, Rabbi Yaakov says, Lama lach kulahai. Why are you doing all of this? Why are you making a second Hagafen? Habarich lan mar chada zimna. You already made one Beire Pri Hagafen on the cup of wine in the middle of the meal. Why are you making now a second Hagafen on the second cup? So that's the question. In other words, if I am drinking a cup of wine, and then later you bring another cup of wine, I have to make a new Hagafen, because I made a Hagafen. So he said, I'm sitting at the same table, I benched. Why do I have to make a new Hagafen when I had in mind I wanted to drink the wine? Why are you making a new Hagafen? Amalei, so Rava says, Ki avinen beireish galusa, hachi avdinan. When we used to have the meals by the Reish Galusa means the head of the exile, the Jewish leader of the diaspora, this is what we used to do. Amalei, Rabbi Yaakov says, wait. Tinech Reish Galusa da hachiyav. I understand why you guys did this by the Reish Galusa. The Suffolk Maisilon, Suffolk Loy Maisilon. You're a guest by somebody's house. When you're a guest by somebody's house, it's a doubt. Is he going to bring more wine after the first cup? Or is he not going to bring more wine after the first cup? I'm sitting in your house. You give me a cup of wine. I make Hagafen. I don't know if I'm going to get more wine by the meal. B'meila, when I drank this cup of wine and I made Hagafen, what was my mind on? Not on any future cup of wine, because I don't even know if I'm going to get it. It was only on this cup of wine. I know I'm getting this cup of wine. I make Hagafen. Therefore, I didn't have in mind to drink any more wine. So now, if he brings me a new cup of wine, even in the middle of the meal, it's considered a completely new drink, and I have to make a new Beire Pri Hagafen. Fascinatingly. Let's say I'm sitting even at my own meal, right? And I drink one cup of wine, I make Hagafen, and I think this is my only cup of wine I'm drinking. I do not want to drink more. Now, I get a little thirsty 10 minutes later, and I drink a new cup of wine, I have to make a new Hagafen. Why? Because when I made the Hagafen, it was exclusively on this cup of wine. I do not want to drink anymore. Here, maybe they wanted to drink, but they're in somebody else's house. So he says, that's why you have to make a bracha on every cup of wine. But this is your house. The second cup was there, the wine was there, and your das was on it. When you made Boide Pri Hagafen in the beginning of the meal, did you know you're going to bench? Of course you knew you're going to bench. Did you know that you're going to use a cup of wine for benching? Of course. You always use a cup of wine for benching. So why are you making a new Hagafen? What are you comparing this to the Reish Galusa? By the Reish Galusa, you're at the mercy of a host. You don't know. He's in a good mood. He's not in a good mood. You don't know the matzav. If he has one, he doesn't have one. But here, it's your own house. What's the issue? Why are you making a Hagafen? Amalei, Rav said, Ano avdi ketalmidei de Rav. I follow the students of Rav. Let me tell you a Maisa. The Rav Brunner, Rav Chananel, Talmidei de Rav, have a Yasser b'Sodasa. This is a story, a middle of a story, a middle of a story. Rav Brunner and Rav Chananel were the students of Rav, and they were sitting at a meal. Two people, Rav Brunner and Rav Chananel. They're sitting at a Suda, and these are the students of Rav who inspired my way of doing things. Koi alayu Rav Yeva Sova. Standing above them is Rav Yeva the elder. What does it mean, standing above them? No. It says by Avram Avinu, right? V'hu oimeid aleihem. He was serving. V'hu oimeid aleihem. Standing above them doesn't mean standing above them. It means standing and tending to their needs, looking what they need. V'hu oimeid aleihem, right? Koi alayu Rashi says mishamesh aleihem. Or the Rashbam says v'hu oimeid aleihem metargeminon v'hu mishamesh. The Targum Unkelus in Parshas Vayeres v'hu mishamesh. Amrulei, Rav Brun and Rav Chananel, the students of Rav, turned to Rav Yeva, who was serving them, Rav Yeva Sover, Rav Yeva the elder, and they tell him, Havlon v'nivrech. Give us a cup of wine, let's bench, it's time to bench. They basically finished eating, so they turned to Rav Yeva, and they said, Havlon, give us what? Give us a kais of wine, so we could do benching. L'soif. I guess the conversation became very interesting or engaging. So at the end, Amrulay, they regret. You know what? We don't want to bench. We want to spend more time together. Amrulay, they say to Rabbi Eva, Havlon v'nishti. Not Havlon u'nevarich. Give us wine so we could drink. In other words, they regretted their original thought that they're ready to finish and bench, and they wanted a cup of wine. They decided they want a cup of wine not to bench, but to drink. Amar Lahu, Rabbi Eva says, Hochi Amar Rav. Let me tell you what Rav said. Kivan dam risu havlon v'nivarech itasru l'chu l'mishti. The moment you say, give us a cup to bench, you're not allowed to drink anymore. My taimed as chisu da taichu. Why? Because you had hesach hadas. You removed your das. Aschisu means you diverted your mind, your attention from drinking. You decided you don't want to eat anymore. You said, give me a cup to bench. So therefore, once you say, give me a cup of wine to bench, you removed your mind from where? From the meal. And because you removed your mind from the meal, you want to bench. If you want to bench, it means, I'm done. We're done. We're going to bench. Give me a cup for benching. Now, if you want to drink, you have to make a new bracha. A new Boide Pri Hagafen, you have to make a new bracha. So b'meila, Rabbi Eva said, I can't just give you wine to drink. You have to make a new blessing on the wine because it's not included anymore in the original Hagafen that you made in the beginning of the meal. All the wine that you drank till now was included. But now you decided to finish the meal, so you interrupted it. So now you interrupted it, now you're asking for wine, great. But it's considered a new Suda. So you have to make a new Boide Pri Hagafen. This is what Rabbi Yeva told the students of Rav. This is how Rav explained to Rabbi Yaakov what he was doing. That basically, even though he made Hagafen in the meal, and even though he had in mind to drink more wine, and even though the wine was there, but he benched. Madach, when you ask to bench, you have to make a new Hagafen just for asking. I didn't ask to bench, I benched. For sure I have to make a new Hagafen. That's what Rav was saying. I follow Talmidim of Rav. Talmidim of Rav, what do you learn from here? That even if you ask to bench, you just say, give me a cup to bench, I have to make a new bracha. For sure, I benched. I benched. That is the greatest Hesach Hadas. Greatest Hadas means I'm thanking Hashem for eating and drinking. I'm done. I'm benching. So now when I drink the wine afterwards, I need to make a new Birchas Hagafen. That's how Rav explained to Rabbi Yaakov, who was staying by him, why he made a new Hagafen after benching. A very interesting machloikis of the Rishonim comes up in this Gemara. What did Rabbi Yeva mean when he said, once you said, I want a bench, we want a bench, give us a cup, you're not allowed to drink anymore. Itasu l'chula mishta. What does it mean you're not allowed to drink anymore? What does it mean? Right? Apparently, the words are you're not allowed to drink. It sounds like you're not allowed to drink. Even with a bracha, it sounds like you're not allowed to drink, right? Or it's not what he meant. Did he mean you're not allowed to drink without a bracha? You just want to drink, like just bring us more wine. No. You're gonna have to make a new bracha, right? So Rashi in Maseches Chulin explains that that's what he meant. He meant that you're not allowed to drink without a bracha. He didn't mean you're not allowed to drink. You're allowed to drink if you want. Just you can't drink the way you thought you could drink. You can't just drink stam. You have to drink with a new bracha. In other words, hesech hadas, diverting your mind from the meal, only necessitates a bracha rishoina, a new bracha. You don't have to make a bracha achroina on what you ate already. Even though it's two separate meals, you could just drink wine, make a new bracha rishoina, and then you'll bench, and the benching will include everything. And that's the shitta of many rishonim, that what? He didn't mean you have to make a new birchas hama. In other words, first bench. You're not allowed to drink. And then we'll bring the wine. That's not what he meant. He just meant you're allowed to drink. Just you have to make a bracha. However, Rashi and the Rashbam here, and that's the shit of many Rishonim, and that's the psak that in Shulchan Aruch, Chaim, Siman, Kuf, Ayin, Tes, which is the Siman dedicated to these halachas. Very practical halacha. If somebody is sitting and eating, and he turns to his wife, or turns to his child, or turns to the waiter, and says, please bring a cup. It's time to bench, right? It's time to bench. And then the person wants to drink afterwards. You decide you don't want to bench, you want to drink afterwards. You would have to make a new bracha on the drinks. Fascinating halacha. Huh?
It's the same reason?
If you wash my achronim, for sure. This is even, you didn't wash my achronim. You just said, bring me a cup for benching, right? Bring me a cup for benching. In other words, you finish the meal. So for drinking, you would have to make a new bracha rishayna, even if it's wine, hagafen, or any other drink. You have to make a new bracha, even though you don't have to make a new bracha. You don't have to make a bracha achrayna first. But Rashi and the Rashbam teach the Gemara differently. Literally, Rabbi Yeva said you're not allowed to drink. He didn't just say you're not allowed to drink without a new bracha. And what he meant was that they have to first bench. They first have to bench on the old meal, and then they could start drinking mamash in a new meal. Which this is a gewaltige Kiddush that they would have to do birchas hamazon. That's another shitta.
Aren't you not supposed to make a bracha when you finish benching? Make a new bracha on something?
Usually, but here they finish the meal. In other words, once there was hesech hadas from the meal, according to this shitta, he says you have to bench, and then you could. If you didn't do hesech hadas yet, you first eat and then bench. But here they already did, so it's too late. You understand? Oh, very interesting. So this is a huge machlokes in the Rishonim. What about eating? This happens constantly in meals, right? Let's bench. Bring the benches, bring the wine, and then dessert comes out. Oh, so he said only drink. For drinks, clearly he says, Psak din in Gemara. Rabbi Yeva Rav said, that if you ask for benching, right, and then you're not allowed to drink without a bracha. According to some Jews, you first have to bench, but the halach in Shulchan Aruch, you don't have to bench, but you have to make a new bracha. What about eating? So this is a machlokes of Rishonim. Some Rishonim said it's exactly the same thing. What's the difference? Hesech hadas. So if they bring out cake, even if I already ate cake earlier, I made mezainis, I have to make a new mezainis. Bring out cholent, hadama, or shahakal, whatever it is. Fascinating halacha. But other Rishonim say, no, this is only siyah, not achila. Only drinking, not eating. It's only drinking. What would be the chiluk? The explanation would be, there's something called yesh kval suda. That when somebody sits down for a meal, if they're sitting in one place, even if they decide to stop eating, they continue eating. They often continue eating. So mela, it's not considered hesech hadas. But siyah was considered a separate endeavor. Again, it's a little hard for us to understand our customs. Siyah was considered a separate endeavor. When you decided you're not drinking anymore, you're not drinking. By achila was often that a person gets nigrar, gets reingeschleppt, gets dragged in from one eating to another eating. So they argue that for eating, you wouldn't have to make a new bracha. Only for shesiyah. So that would be an interesting difference. Where other Rishonim say it's exactly the same thing. Hesach hadas is hesach hadas, and if they bring you new food, you have to bring. And both shittas are brought in Shulchan Aruch in Kufay and Tez. Both shittas are brought. The first shitta that it's only with drinking, and the second shitta that it's even with eating. It's very, very practical halacha. Come, let's bench, right? And then somebody gives you an orange, and you just say we're going to bench soon. You have to make ha'etz. Even if you made ha'etz already 20 minutes earlier on another fruit, you have to make a new ha'etz. Or they bring you new kugel. You have to make mezainis on the kugel, or not? Very interesting question. On drinking, yeah. Everybody holds, though, once you washed mayim achroinim, or once you actually picked up the kois for benching, right? Then even eating, yeah, you would have to make a new bracha. That everyone agrees. Once you did mayim achroinim. But here it's not you did mayim achroinim, you just asked for a cup of this.
Before my makron, you say the tehillim. Is that considered part of it?
No. No. It's after my machrayna. You do have to know though. It could be. This is what a Pesach once told me. He said, in today's day, people are so into eating and drinking constantly, non-stop, that he doesn't even know if there's hesach hadas today from drinking and eating. He says, in other words, when the guy says, let's bench, it's not even serious, because he does it every Shabbos, and 5 minutes later, he's busy eating for another hour. So he says, if that's your routine, so what's hesach hadas, ven hesach hadas? In other words, when they said, give us a cup for benching, it was a serious thing. It's hesach hadas. So his tightness is, B'chlal, there's no hesach hadas, but you don't mean what you say. Yeah, let's bench. Yeah, nish. You're not such a responsible person. Let's bench. If there's something else, we won't bench. So he says it could be. It's not even hesach hadas. It's an interesting halach. But the way it says in Shulchan Aruch is, if you say let's bench and then you want to drink, you have to make a new bracha. Eating is a machloikas or a shainim. The Balatanya Shulchan Aruch Rav says safek brachas lahakal. So brachas lahakal means since it's a suffix in the Rishonim, so therefore it's lahakal, you don't make a new bracha for eating. So therefore if I take a piece of challah, right, I say let's bench, and then there's a piece of challah and I want to eat, I wouldn't make a new hamaitzi. Some say I'd have to make a new hamaitzi. Very interesting question. But this is the source of this discussion, because Rabbi Yevis said that you have to make a new bracha. Zog the Gemara says 3 stories. Fascinating. Here's the story, in middle of the story, in middle of the story, in middle of the story. 3 people were sitting at a meal. Ameimar, Mazutra, and Reb Ashi. Reb Acha, the son of Rava, was standing above them to serve them. Ameimar Baruch al kol kosa v'kosa. Ameimar made boide priya gafen on every single cup of wine. Every cup of wine he made a gafen. Forget benching. Every cup of wine. Mazutra Baruch HaKosa Kama v'Kosa Bas. Mazutra made in the first cup of wine and the last cup of wine, meaning after benching, like Rava did. Reb Ashi Baruch HaKosa Kama v'Sulay Baruch. Reb Ashi made a gafen on the first cup of wine and he never made a bracha again. Even after benching, when he drank, he never made a bracha again. Amalu Reb Acha bar Rava. Reb Acha bar Rava was the waiter. So he turns to these 3 Amirayim, the great sages of the generation, Ameimar, Mazutra, Reb Ashi. Says, Anam Keman Navid, who are we supposed to do this like? In other words, you guys are completely contradicting each other. Ameimar doesn't stop with his brachas. Mazutra, one in the beginning, one at the end. Reb Ashi, one, and that's it. Who are we supposed to behave like? So they all explained to him what they were doing. And basically what they were showing is that they were basically following their own experience. Ameimar says, Nimlechana, this is just my personal thing. When I drank every cup of wine, the first cup of wine, I decided I'm not drinking anymore. And then Nimlech means I regretted it. So after the first cup of wine, I decided not to drink anymore. And then I regretted it and I drank another cup. And the same was true with every single cup. I regretted it and I drank a new cup. So therefore every cup is considered a whole new drink. It's like a new meal. So therefore it needs a bracha. That's Ameimar's position. Mazutra says, Ano davdi ketalmid de Rav. Unlike Ameimar, I did have in mind to drink. And I'm following the students of Rav. What do you remember? What's the students of Rav? Rava learned from the students of Rav that when you bench, you have to make a new hagafen. Not because he didn't have in mind, but because it's considered hesach hadas. Rabashi says, "Las hilchsek talmidei de Rav." I completely disagree with the students of Rav. The halacha is not like the students of Rav, and I'll tell you why. It doesn't make sense. We all remember the machlokes. Yom Tov shecholi yisachar Shabbos Amar Rav yakna. When Yom Tov falls out Motzaei Shabbos, what did Rav say? Yayin Kiddush Neir Havdalah. I have a question. You're making hagafen, and then you're saying a bracha of Kiddush, a bracha ma'esh, a bracha Havdalah, and then you're drinking. What happened? Why is all these brachas not a hefsek for your hagafen? Is the charaya that Rav says you can make one hagafen, and the hagafen travels through Kiddush, and the hagafen travels through Havdalah, and then you can drink after. In other words, the fact that you made Havdalah between the Kiddush and the drinking, between the hagafen and the drinking, is not a hefsek. Usually you do hagafen, Kiddush, and drink. Or hagafen, Havdalah, and drink. Here you did hagafen, Kiddush, and then you made a whole new bracha, Havdalah, and it's not considered a hefsek. So b'meila zarai, you can make a bracha, and it's not a hefsek. So what's wrong with making birchas hamazon? I bench, and it's not a hefsek. And since Rav is the one who said this, is the charaya that Rav never said the other halacha. Rabbi Yeva misunderstood Rav. Rav never said that you have to make a new hagafen if you ask people to bench. Because you see from here, yaknaha, that Rav doesn't believe that a bracha is a hefsek. And therefore Rabbi Ashi says, sorry, I don't make a new hagafen after benching. I do benching and I drink without hagafen. Zog the Gemara, v'loihi, wrong. You can't compare. Hasem, by benching, akar daite mimishtiya. You uprooted your mind from drinking. Here, you did not uproot your mind from drinking. Meaning, the definition of Birchas Hamazon is, I finished eating and drinking. I'm thanking Hashem. Why don't you thank Hashem in the beginning of the meal? Because you didn't finish. You thank after. So the definition of benching is, the meal is over. No more eating, no more drinking. That's the definition of benching. Definition of benching is, goodbye to the meal. Now, after benching, you want to drink a cup of wine. Great, make a new bracha. When you're making Kiddush and Havdalah, you're not oiker yadas from. See, the definition of Havdalah is not I ate and drank. Havdalah means you're saying goodbye to Shabbos. You're saying goodbye to Shabbos. And therefore, Reb Ashi's distinction, the Gemara does not maintain, and says Velohi, and therefore Rava's halacha is maintained, that after benching, you make a new boire pri hagafen, and that was his justification to Rabbi Yaakov. So this is all part of the story, that Rabbi Yaakov was in his house, and he saw him make hagafen, and he asked him why, and he told him about the Reish Galusa, and he tried to question it, and Rav told him the story that happened with the students of Rav, with Rabbi Yeva, right? And then the Gemara goes off to another story about Ameimar, Mazutra, Rabbi Ashi, and Ameimar and Mazutra are not arguing, Rabbi Ashi is arguing, and L'Payel, we maintain that Mazutra was right, just like Rava was right, accepting the position of Rabbi Yeva Sava in the name of Rav, which all explains why Rava made a new hagafen after benching, as he explained to Rabbi Yaakov. So this answers the first question that Rabbi Yaakov had on Rava, why are you making a new boire pri hagafen? And indeed, that's the halacha, that when we bench, we make a new hagafen after the benching, because it's called hesach hadas, even though you have a cup of wine and you know you want to drink it, but because the definition of benching is hesach hadas. Not because you don't want to drink, you actually do want to drink. You have a cup of wine, but the definition of benching is that the old meal is gone, and whatever happens now is a new experience, and therefore you need a new boire pri hagafen. Okay.
So on water, how far does hesach?
On water yosa. According to this, if I say let's bench, I have to make a shahaka.
I mean, in the middle of the week, I drink a cup of water, I said that should be enough. I'm more thirsty now.
Very good question. So if you make a bracha on food and there's more food in front of you, even if you didn't have in mind to eat it, unless you didn't have in mind not to eat it, you don't have to make a bracha. Let's say I'm eating apples, right? Because it's there. But let's say I'm eating apples and there's an orange here. I finish the apple and I eat the orange. I never had in mind to eat the orange, but I don't have to make a new ha'etz. Why? Because when I made a bracha on the apple, it applied also to the orange because it's ha'etz and it was in front of me. Okay? Unless I had in mind, I don't want to eat the orange. I don't want to eat the orange. Now I'm eating the orange, I have to make a new bracha. But what happens if the orange was in the kitchen? I'm eating the apple and the orange was in the kitchen. And then my wife brings out the orange after I made the bracha, and I didn't have in mind. So if when I ate the apple I had in mind any fruits that are going to be here, I want to including when the kitchen, that's fine. Then it doesn't have to be. In other words, if food is in front of you, you don't have to have das for it. It's already nichel in the bracha. If the food is not in front of you, you need das. And if there's no das, then you have to make a new bracha when they bring out the oranges.
Water in the refrigerator, you have to take more, you have to make another bracha.
If the water is in the refrigerator,
A cup of water, I'm only going to drink a cup, and then I said...
and you didn't have das, to drink more water,
Right.
and then somebody brings more water, but you didn't have das to drink more water.
Because I thought a cup would be enough to...
You want to drink one cup.
Yeah, and then I said, I'm still thirsty, so I go to the refrigerator and take it more, you have to make another bracha?
Well, there you also have shinui makam. There you also have a change of place.
Even if I'm still in the kitchen.
Are you saying in the same
Say
place?
I'm in the kitchen still.
You have to make a new bracha, yeah. I believe so.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty far-fetched.
Unless, listen, very often we drink a cup of water, we know that we want to drink, so then it's
there, so we can...
very often your das is not. But if you mamish are conscientious, I want 1 cup of water.
It's unusual to think that way.
Huh?
It's unusual.
The truth is, I have the question almost every day. Somebody brings me a cup of coffee before the first shiur. I make a shahakal, obviously. By the second shiur, he brings me a new cup of coffee. But I make a new shahakal because I never... the coffee is not here.
I don't know if it's going to come. The guy's going to bring it.
Oh, you always...
And if Nuchem... So no, and the truth is when I make the first shahakal, I never think about the second coffee. Then I wouldn't. If I'm having in mind that I'm soon going to have another cup of coffee in a half an hour, whatever, I wouldn't make. But I don't have in mind. So I make. Every day I make at the end. Usually.
This class is brought to you by the yeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.